Hello everyone. Today on Sorcerers of the Beach, the talented guys who live across the sea from the Wizards of the Coast will give you some advice on why, how, and when to let your players participate in world building. I'm Killian, and this is something that I don't see done enough, along with session zeros, boundary discussions, proper schedules, and actually functioning games, if you go by the posts on the r/D&D subreddit. The only prerequisite you need to do this is a functioning D&D group with interested players. I know, that's a high requirement, but it is needed nonetheless, because the players and the DM have to work together on this one, and your players have to be at least a little proactive when you are working out the world building with them. We'll start with the why. I encourage player participation in world building because it lets the players feel more engaged and immersed with their character and lets them work with me when creating locations, events, or characters from their backstory that may shape the world as well as the adventure. It lets you, as the DM, incorporate places that some player characters know and enables you to give out certain knowledge to player characters to further the plot and heighten the immersion. Deepen the immersion? I don't know. It also makes the world feel alive, as your players know what to expect from basic places, concepts, and societies, letting them engage in roleplay with a knowledge of those aspects. It also gives your players some nice "oh no" moments when you subvert the status quo and throw in something truly unknown to the people of that world. All of this leads to a more fleshed out and roleplay-friendly campaign setting, in my experience. Let's see what another sorcerer has to add to this and how we can implement it. I welcome my guest for this video, Frode.
Hey Killian, thanks for having me. I like to give out information and brainstorm with my players when they are building their characters' backstories. I'll ask them to give me information about their past, characters that they may meet again, and their personalities. I admit that I'm very protective about my homebrew world, but I also want my players to give me a certain amount of information about their character's backstory that truly comes from them. So I would give them a few cornerstones, including a general map of the region, the basic plot, and the place where it all begins. Then I ask my players for a character concept. For example, if a player wants to play a paladin that was once part of a mighty order of paladins, I would look if there is such an order somewhere in the region. If so, they might choose to have this order be their former home. In my homebrew world, I found that my players usually love to adapt the places I created into their backstories, but sometimes a player really wants to make up their own thing, so I would let them. Let's say the paladin player wants his former order to be located in a big town instead of the castle beside the coast I placed them in originally. So I would let them pick the town their paladins are located on the map and give them some basic information about the place which may already inspire the player. Then I ask them how the paladins interact with the rest of the world. I would take notes for myself and see if this evolves or hinders the world building I have done so far for this town, and, more important, the plot that I'm going for. I will try to embed the player's ideas into the world building and make some suggestions about connections to other elements in my world that might be fitting. If what my player came up with still doesn't match this place at all, I suggest a change, like a different town, and keep the reason mysterious, so the player feels like the DM has something exciting planned here, and the change is in their own interest. I would try my best not to make the player feel punished for coming up with ideas that don't match, but to show them the best way of fitting them in. Doing it this way, I keep control over my world, but the players have enough freedom to build their story. But the players being involved into the world building doesn't have to end with their backstory being finished. For example, if my players enter a town I just described, I might just ask them to name the tavern they're heading up to. When a player talks to a random NPC their character knows in their home village, there's no problem of the PC just randomly saying the NPC's name within their dialogue while just making it up. Of course, usually you don't want them to also name the interesting and fleshed out NPCs you created for your campaign, but those NPCs should be able to be recognized by your players anyway, so they should be able to tell when it's important that you decide on the details. And yeah, that's basically all I have to say for now. I think the most general and simple answer to the question of letting players world build too is communication, really. Talk things out and it will probably, hopefully, work for everyone. So yeah, back to you, Killian.
Thank you. I love that. And I also play in one of your worlds and I'm so happy with how everything just fits together. You summarized it quite well. And to add to that, when you integrate your players into the world building, it should be done in the planning phase and the session zero for the campaign or one shot. This lets you plan the general world with your players while setting the tone, boundaries, and handing out the other starting info for the game at the same time, making sure all of your players and you yourself are satisfied with the outcome of the session zero. But how should it be done? Not everyone has a homebrew world, and not every DM is as diligent as you in preparation, often also due to time constraints. If you don't have the time to work through each player and just want to smack some monsters or player characters, then this might not be needed, but you can make it quicker and easier. Take your players' backstories and weave them into your world together with your players, making sure to generate plot points that are relevant for the campaign or side quests and lead to fulfilling character arcs. And as a player, I can write my 10-page backstory, but I should definitely go over the parts in my backstory that may affect my character today or in the future. So maybe I won't world build my character's entire upbringing with the DM, but that nemesis that killed my character's parents and is still out and about, yeah, he should be covered. So work out the important stuff with your DM, and if you want a long backstory, but the DM won't read all that, then please give them a bunch of bullet points, or a TLDR. Remember, you're not writing a book, you're taking part in a collaborative adventure that you have limited control over. You may not have been planning to have your arm amputated by a spinning blade in a dungeon, but that's what can happen when you roll a natural 1 on an acrobatics check and another player starts a sentence with, "Wouldn't it be funny if..." That's all for this video. Thank you so much for watching, or rather, listening. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed it or learned something new, and comment what you would like to see covered next. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to go prep my teleportation circle.